This is your first time, and I can't imagine what you're gonna do for the next time because you covered all the bases. I'm done. So, first of all, to the organizers, I'm really happy. I'm happy this happened. I'm happy you put this together. Proud, thankful that you gave me the opportunity to be part of it as well. I'm not a psychologist, not a social worker, but I've been in the community, like I said, many years, and the following is just going to be primarily my observations, really, of what I see and some of the thoughts. So I wanted to start off with the following. A few days ago, Sunday, was the Gimel of Tammuz, the third of Tammuz, the Rabbi's yard site, and I wanted to share something with you that was recorded in a book that he put together called Hayom Yom, Daily Thoughts, Divrei Torah, and so on. So this was written much before, obviously, Pastor was in 1943. But he says the following thing is really appropriate for that day and today as well, which is the sigh, Jewish sigh, the sigh of a Jew, even if it's coming from a place of material difficulty. He's not sighing, oh, I miss Krishma, or he's sighing because life is hard. It's just really hard. Mental, physical, material, things are difficult. And people thought, oh, accept everything, b'simcha, but you know what? That's easier said than done. But it just says that's also tshuva. That's also good, especially if it's motivated by spiritual reasons, like you said. But let's stick to the first part. And I think, and there he concludes that sigh can pull a person out of a very deep, dark place. And I think the reason for this, without really going very much deep into it, is because the first part of getting of a solution is really recognizing that there's a problem. And obviously, as a Jew, you recognize there's a problem, like you said very eloquently. You also recognize that your help is going to come from Hashem. But if you don't recognize that you have a problem, and like you said, oh, whatever, that's not recognizing it's a problem. That's called delusion. And that's just, on the contrary, in a certain way, it's denial of Hashem, because you deny that Hashem put you into this problem, in this situation, and that He also, therefore, is giving you the ability to deal with it. Most of us rather not accept that we have a problem, which in certain ways denying that somehow Hashem is involved in our life in very deep ways. Like you said, the worst day turned around into the best day, as it were. So as you mentioned also, because this is something we discussed, there's a lot of focus on rightfully so, on drug addiction. And like you said as well, it's a larger, it's part of a larger problem. So I think we have to step back, we have to look at the larger picture, we have to ask ourselves, how as a community do we look at mental illness? How do we think, what do we think about it? Can we recognize it? How many of us know the signs of mental illness? How do we respond to it? How do we deal with it? Not as an individual, but as a community. These are really important questions. This goes to the core. So this is not just another look, this is about having a real conversation as a community of where are we and where are we going with this? How can we move this somehow? How can we move the arrow forward? So you start with the individuals, that's how everything is. People who want to be part of the solution. And I think, my observations are threefold, really, breaking up into three separate things, and some of these things you actually touched upon, which is stigma. So this community, I'm not an honorary Bukharian Jew by now, I guess after 25 years. Very close-knit. And I mean that in the best possible way. I'm not saying it cynically. It's a very close-knit community. Everybody's there for everybody all the time. And it's tremendous. It is really tremendous. I've been here to the nursing homes. Not many Bukharian Jews in nursing homes, unless they have a really advanced, because everybody, families stay together generationally, and that's a tremendous strength. That could also have its challenges, which is everybody has an opinion about everybody else. Whether you ask for the opinion, you don't ask for the opinion, everybody has an opinion, and they'll tell you your opinion. And that's what it is, especially if it's somebody that is older. So I think the starting point is really, it's very important, which you also touched upon, which is, and I'm speaking in terms of, though there are people here that are not married, in terms primarily those that are married. Your first responsibility is to your immediate family, is to your wife and to your children. Yes, respect your parents, but this is going to sound really a little bit rough. Their opinion is important, but it doesn't matter in this regard. In other words, when making a decision on what is important to you, your well-being and the well-being of your wife and your children. Everybody has his opinion. You can listen to it. You can also, it doesn't matter. Because you can't live your life based on other people's opinions. You can't change it necessarily, but there has to be right here that the decisions that you make have to be first and foremost the best decisions for you and your family in the immediate, in the now, in the present. Two, and this is going to sound funny coming from a rabbi, but there was a comedian that died recently, a year ago, and the truth is, I wasn't going to say everybody knows who it is, then you Rabbi who was very talented, but he also had tremendous mental health issues. So there's a statement that's attributed to him, and actually I used part of that statement in my WhatsApp status, which is, you don't know what problems people are carrying around. Be kind always. So it sounds like a meme. But you know, for us it says that in the Gemara the Jews have three qualifications, right? The Rachmanim, Rachmanim. You have to have Rachmanut. What's it with all, now we have Rachmanut for everybody. Our own people, not so much. No. It has to stop. Being kind is being kind. No, I put in $5 in the push. It's an understanding. Everybody's dealing with so much. Cut them some slack. Cut them some slack. They're dealing with it. They're dealing with hopefully the best way they know how. And just give that to them. And I think that's really when we speak about stigma, it has to start with ourselves and it has to start with the people around us to get this message out. What? Okay? Let's live by what we preach, which is being a Jew is about having rachmanut. So I think that is the starting point. Second point, I think it's also an important one, which is that Baruch Hashem, the community over the years that I've been here have grown tremendously in Tshuva and becoming more Orthodox. And, you know, when I moved here 25 years ago, you didn't really see all that many people in the Pachat. You know, it's amazing. It's wow. This synagogue, when I was here, you have one or two sneas. But Gabriel was just starting literally, and now you have in every corner. People are returning to their roots. But I think there's a couple important points here, and one of them that you mentioned, which is the following: that going to a lecture, this one or any other one, or saying to him, is not going to solve your mental health issues. Say to him, but you can't wish it away. You can't just be a little bit more religious. Maybe go to mikvah an extra time. It's nice, different conversation. You need to go to a specialist. And you need, and as much as people come to me for advice, you come to me for advice to hear, you know what, you need to see a specialist. I'm not going to, Rabbi is not going to be able to solve this problem for you, unless he almost happens to be a psychologist. So that is an important matter. Rabbis have their limits. Mental health, mostly, is right up there. Another very important point, which is also something that happens in families where you have both the desire to grow as a family in observance and mental health. It can be a very toxic mixture, which is where there's a lot of chaos, a lot of trauma, because one of the spouses embraced, Judaism, and he wants everybody to grow, and also has an issue, and that reflects itself in the way that he wants his children to be, and that's not always healthy. In other words, the family, the wife, the children, or the husband and the children need to, first and foremost, the responsibility of either the husband and or the wife is that the family lives in a healthy, peaceful, loving atmosphere. Then they will love God and people. If one of the spouses has a mental health issue that's not being addressed, that's not going to happen. The result is there's going to be trauma, there's going to be chaos, and unfortunately, not always, but often, the children that grow up in a home like this are emotionally stunted. They don't know what it means to have a normal relationship with people and with God. So if they become observant, they're very tight and there's so much going on. Or in some cases, they don't want to have anything to do with Judaism, because for them it's only trauma, it's only anxiety, it's only fear, it's everything that it shouldn't be. So I'm not speaking to anybody specifically, but you ask me as an observation, there is some of that as well. And this leads me to the third point, which is also you covered. I don't know why I'm here. Which is, if what you want as a parent is for the children to grow up with a healthy understanding and a healthy belief in God, that starts with being an example. And the example is that I, your parent, am human. Who would have thought? And like everybody else, I have things that I'm struggling with. But you know what? I believe in God, and I know He will help me. And I have the humility to acknowledge and admit that I need help. That is not a sign of that is a sign of a God-fearing Jew, of a believing Jew. Because otherwise you don't believe that you have an issue that came from God or where it come from. And that you don't believe that God can actually help you. So it doesn't mean necessarily sharing all of the details of the issue with the kids. Obviously that's what the psychologist decided between people individually. But that the kids know that something's not well with Abba, they'll figure, if you haven't slept in a month, they know there's something going on with Abba. But now they know that Abba is better. And you can tell them, you know what, I was going to something, but Hashem sent me a sign that, I need help. And you know what you're going to do? When they, hopefully won't, but possibly will, themselves be in the situation, they'll have somebody to have a real example of what strength is, as opposed to repeating the same cycle of trauma and dysfunction generation to generation. It doesn't have to be. We don't need to gift this to our children. It needs to stop somewhere. So again, not specific mentioning names, but I think we can all relate to at least some of what I've said here, which is that this stigma exists on many levels. It has to end with us. We need to be able to spread the word. And I salute you for the courage and the strength in making it happen. And I hope everybody here is just not here as part of just to listen, but also part of the solution as well. Thank you very much. And,